those numbers really help drive the decision for the coach and help quantify whether or not you're doing a really nice job or not. Hey, thanks for joining us again here with Brad. Let's talk about a few things. Club fitting first here, though. So how about we start with, here's a question that came in. It's a good one to start with, too. A lot of people don't really know how the wrench actually works when they buy a driver. So poof, you bought this driver, it came with a wrench. Now what do you do with that thing?
If you're like most people, you're probably just putting in your bag and leaving there, right?
Yeah.
But it's obviously not what you want to be doing. Pretty much every driver anymore is going to have some level of adjustability to it. I can't think of any that don't. So for starters, why don't we go through just what the adjustability can do with all the shafts, right?
Yes.
So we have two different models here, Callaway, there goes our other shaft, a Callaway Epic Flash. And the cool thing with Callaway is you can orient the shaft in different ways to adjust the loft. So what you may not know is whenever you do adjust the loft, you typically are going to be doing something to adjust the face angle as well. Callaway's done a cool job with their adapter to where you can actually move these two rings to then adjust your loft, but keep the face angle pretty neutral.
Yeah.
This
It's
one's
still
simple.
changing some, but not much.
Yeah, it's changing it a little bit, but typically it's going to be to a much smaller degree than some of the different manufacturers out there. And they make it pretty easy for you. There's a little line just on the hosel, and if it's not Callaway, everybody's got some kind of marking. Pretty much just a line, whatever setting that you want to have. So for instance, we have an N, that's your face angle neutral, +1, that's your loft, and then just align the markings with the markings that are on the head. Then once you tighten this guy down, to do a simple math problem here, I'm sure you can handle this. Ready? I have a 9-degree driver.
7.
If I'm adding 1 degree of loft,
6.
you're getting closer. No, I'd actually have a 10-degree driver now, right? And
Almost had it. Next time I'll get it right.
like you said before, there is going to be some slight changes to the face angle. As I add loft, typically that's going to have a little bit of a closing effect on the face.
Yeah.
Vice versa. If I were to decrease the loft, it's going to have a little bit of an opening effect. So you can use that to your advantage as well. So if you do hit a slice or you hit a hook, knowing how to adjust the loft to help get the face angle, what you want is beneficial to a player as well.
Sure. How about take that like a step farther? So if you slice and you want to avoid that, how are you going to set that up?
Yep. So it'd be for the Callaway model in particular, there's two different settings I would do. If I want to reduce my slice, I'm typically going to add loft.
Yeah.
So that's going to have a closing effect of the face. Then Callaway then also does have a line angle adjustment. We can put it on the D setting, which then takes the line angle and makes the driver a little more upright.
Sure.
Granted, with a driver, very little loft.
It does nothing.
Yeah, it's going to do next to nothing. But if you do slice and you're trying to do everything you can not to slice, every little bit's going to help you out.
So that 9-degree, close the face, and that's probably about as good as you can do with the hosel.
Yep, and that's going to be as close as we're going to get to the driver you need just using the adapter that's built onto the shaft.
Exactly. Okay. And then good players. So let's say you're a good player, high ball speed. Someone like Dustin Johnson comes to mind who wants to draw less. Just to make sure that the face is more open to the target and the path.
Yep.
How do you build? Maybe that's the next one for the ping driver.
Yeah. So there's a couple options that you do have for my ping shaft. Now this one does not have the adjustability of the two independent rings like the Callaway did, but they make this really easy for you because they actually just physically write what the loft is going to do on the internals. But then you'll see there's also a flat setting. So this is a good example with ping, where by putting it in the flatter setting, that will do the exact opposite like we talked about the Callaway. It'll aim the face a little more to the right. So for your player that wants to stop a hook, that'll be a really good starting point for them. Sure. And then we can even take that a little farther and reduce the loft. Yep. So now that reduction in the loft, if we go flat, let's say flat -1. Now we're taking our 9-degree driver, turning it down to
7. 6.
Getting closer.
8.
There we go.
I know, I got it.
You're doing great.
So
at math.
when you're taking those higher lofted drivers and then you start to open the club face with them, reducing the loft, that's what you're doing when you take the 10.5-degree driver and then reduce the loft. It's also opening up the club face. So now you've got the face aim more to the right. So even if you're a relatively high ball hitter, but you overdraw shots, curve too much to the left for righties, having a driver that's say 10.5, reducing the loft, is a really nice way of actually going with your driver. It's
Yep.
going to open the face the most.
And that's why it's just important to have like a basic understanding of what the adapter does. Because
Well, that's why we're doing this.
hey, that's a good start for
Yeah,
everybody,
right.
right? Getting with your fitter can certainly help you get to the exact setting that you do need. But then, as you progress, you may want to change it a little bit, and knowing what those changes actually do are going to be important.
Okay. You want to go into the head weight or the club head itself now?
Yeah, let's talk about the club head. So pretty much every driver out there is also going to have some level of adjustability. So we'll talk about the Callaway as well, but we'll get started with the Ping. So the Ping, for instance, has 3 different settings in the back. The neutral setting just puts the weight all the way in the back.
Turn it just like
and
that.
then they label this very easily, where there is simply a draw setting, and it says the words draw right there, or a fade. And that's going to induce that type of ball flight, or that's the goal. So for that slicer we talked about, make it really easy. This weight just loosens up.
Yep.
It's a 14-gram weight, and then we're just going to move that over into our heel setting.
This one's just a little trickier because you can't actually take the weight all the way out.
There
Most of
we
them
go.
you can't. So that'd be really good. So if you do slice the golf ball, having a 9-degree driver, adding loft, turning the actual heaviest weight in the head towards the draw setting, and now you've got the most draw driver, most draw bias driver, mainly from the CG moving around.
Yeah, so there's a myth that's really perpetuated through the ages that by moving a weight in the heel, adding hot melt, adding lead tape, you know where I'm going with this one,
Yep.
has an effect of getting the club face to rotate more through the shot, and that's what helps you to draw the shot.
It's a great idea, isn't it?
Yeah, conceptually that kind of makes sense, but the problem is that's happening so fast, and really the change is so little. For one, you can't measure it, for starters.
There isn't enough weight being moved to actually have that be the result, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So really what is happening, if we measure these, let's actually even go to the Callaway on this one, so we can do something similar. We do have this one marked up. So Callaway works very similarly, just with the sliding weight in the back. So we can slide it into the draw, into the fade. They label theirs as well to make it really easy. What that actually does, it's going to move the center of gravity, the sweet spot of the club. So we have 2 locations marked. You see one here is just a little bit on the toe side of the center, and one's very much on the heel. So it may not look like a lot. It's probably 7-8 millimeters of difference between the 2. But what that's going to do now is if I do hit a shot in the center, that's going to affect how the club twists upon impact.
Yep.
So it's using gear effect, the twisting of the club head, using that to the golfer's benefit just to help to induce the shot that they're looking
Right.
to correct or to hit.
Yep. So if you slice the most, which driver are you recommending off of our wall as like a good place to try it, or a good place to start? No, keeping in mind that so many of these will accomplish the same task.
Yeah, that's great comment there. We can pretty much make any driver work work for any particular golfer. There's a lot of personal preference in there from look, feel, sound.
Sure.
But just a good one out of the package. The G410 Plus is going to be one of the most, if not the most forgiving driver on the wall.
Yeah.
The MOI is really high, and that just means when you do hit that shot off center, you're still going to get a pretty usable shot. Ball speeds will stay pretty good. And then additionally, the Mizuno driver this year probably just has the most adjustability from moving the sweet spot from the toe side all the way over into the heel.
Yeah.
So you can make that one work whether you are a drawer of the ball or a slicer.
Yeah. How about that Epic Flash right there?
Epic Flash is a good one. If you go into the standard model especially, the rear weight is going to be just a little bit heavier because they don't have the weight in the front.
Yep.
So by moving the weight to the rear, that in and of itself is going to increase the MOI and make it more forgiving. And then it just gives you more weight to ultimately move more into this draw setting as well.
Yeah. So hold that one up. We'll get. Can you get a nice tight shot in here, Eric, of the CG placement? So we moved all the weight into the draw setting, the most in the heel. But from this view, the couple of X's in there really show you where the CG's at. When it's the most in the heel, which is where you want it. If you slice, it's the gold one right here. So that anything to this side of that gold X is effectively a toe hit. Anything to this side now is a heel. So that centered strike that would normally not really have a lot of gear effect, not necessarily help you much with a slice, that actually becomes a high toe hit, which if you do have a tendency to curve to the right, that's the way you'd want to set that thing up. Helps you with the gear effect piece. Sound good?
And yeah, that's what we've been seeing in the last couple of years really, is just more advanced materials with drivers.
Yeah.
So like composite crowns, composite soles, And what they're doing with that is they're not necessarily making a driver that's just lighter, but by having the lighter materials throughout the club, that just gives them more weight to locate where they want. So all these different MOIs, CG locations, it's not like that's an error or some manufacturing flaw. They're placed there for an exact reason. And by using those composite materials, have an M5 there is a great example.
Yeah.
That just gives them tons of weight to put exactly where they want.
Sure. So you'll see a lot of golfers who slice putting both of the screws down here in the bottom towards the heel of the club. That's a really good place to put it. Moves the center of gravity closer towards the heel and gives you those toe strikes again. But even tour players grab that M5 Tour and do similar things because that CG is so biased towards the toe. So to like simplify this thing, you can try to learn a lot from Brad's description of how to move the weights around and what to do with those. And it's interesting to note how changing loft can really change the face angle as well. But really, to make sure that these things are right for you, you need an experienced coach or a club fitter, someone who does this for a living, to help guide you through that thing so that these don't just become the ornaments that sit in a golf bag in your garage. That's how you get the most out of it. But if you do have a wrench and you can follow those pretty basic instructions for how to get started, you can figure out how to do this on your own and get pretty far. Sound about right?
Yeah.
Is there anything else?
Nope.
Okay.
On board.
Next one. So irons, how do you know, or how would you know if you need new irons? Are they ever going to wear out? Are they going to become obsolete before that happens? What's the process you should use in there?
Yeah.
So, you want to get that one going?
I think I can get you started on it. They can wear out if you play a lot of golf. I mean, the grooves could wear out, but the likelihood that's actually going to happen
It's going to take a long time.
yeah, not very good. I think they're going to just become obsolete from a technological point of view. Is going to be the biggest difference.
Yeah, so you've got this Ping i2 iron. I was hitting a few shots with it earlier. Can definitely tell just from my own perspective, slight mishits with this are not nearly as forgiving due to the MOI and due to the forgiveness and due to the hollow body design that all the new irons have. Even like this Ping iron, so this is the i500. It's one of their most forgiving clubs, but yet it still looks really normal when you put it down on the ground. Everything inside of here is hollow, which enables you to have a faster ball speed like what you would do with a driver. So a lot of people ask a question, or I've heard this one before too, should I get my clubs perfectly custom fit for me even if they're old? The answer is yes, you should always do that. There's never a good reason not to. But all the new technology now enables you to hit the newer irons higher, farther. You have faster ball speeds. You've got more consistent ball speeds all over the face. That's what I noticed the most with hitting the older tech, is something that's just barely in the heel that I wouldn't even notice with my M5 iron, so I wouldn't even have thought that I mishit it. You can certainly feel the gearing in there, feel the twisting, and then the ball speeds go way down on the mishits.
Yeah, and I think one thing, especially with, say, some of the hollow body irons they've really improved upon in recent years, is just making them still feel like a one-piece construction. I think that was a big problem they had when they first came out, was that people would hit them and they'd feel like a wood. They'd feel like clicky or just hollow.
Tingy, weird.
Yeah, exactly. Now they're typically injected with some kind of foam or some material. So
As
you'd hit
these are.
this, and you'd hit it and you would just think it's like a forged solid club.
Right.
Until the ball's obviously leaving probably 10 miles an hour faster, if not more, than say something that is just a one-piece construction.
Yeah, so we just described the difference between a 20-year-old iron and a brand new one. The question poses, when do I need to replace mine? I would suggest that if you haven't at least tried some new irons in the past couple of years, you're starting to get behind the curve, and the further back you go, the more detrimental that is to your game. So if you have a Ping iron from a couple years ago and it was fit really well for you, chances are this won't perform that much better. A little bit, if they were fit for you really well. But if you go back 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, that's when you'll see the biggest difference in change between all of these.
I'd say the better players in that player distance category, those are probably the ones that are probably seeing the biggest advances in the last couple of years, because the hollow body design, the distance model, that's been around for a number of generations now with your game improvement irons. They've really just been introducing some of that distance technology into this much smaller profile now. So your guys that do like a club that looks more traditional would be the ones that probably have the most to gain, to be honest.
And if you've never been fit, that's probably
you definitely have tons to gain.
That's your gaping hole right there. The fitting piece that's even different now as well, especially with these new clubs, it's even more important to get fit for them because of the potential ball speeds that you'll have. So you might have, with an older set of clubs like this, 20 years old, found that you have 7, 8, 10 yards in between clubs for gapping. It's very possible you grab something new that's built like a little rocket launcher, which is what this ping iron really is, that suddenly you might have 20-yard gaps between your pitching wedge and your next shortest wedge, or your 5-iron now travels farther than your 5 would. All that, really, you need to take that into consideration. That's why you need to get fit.
It sounds like a good problem to have.
Yes, exactly. And that's why you need to check your irons out every couple of years. Anything else you had in there?
No, right? I think even if you're not even interested in getting new clubs, just check them out to see what's out there, and then just the nature of hitting clubs. They're have little adjustments here and there, be it lie angle, whatever.
Right.
Never hurts to check them out.
You're not wearing them out. That's it takes too long. You're not a PGA Tour player playing golf 7 days a week. You are the average guy playing on the weekends when you get a chance. That's not the problem. The tech is the problem. It's passing you by.
And technology is your friend.
It's like you see electric cars on the road now. You got to keep up with the new and improved electric irons here. Last one, we need to do this one in there.
Okay.
So I need to actually turn on the screen cap for that too. Don't let me forget about that. Let's do that first. So this one is really, when you come in for a lesson or swing evaluation, I think a lot of people are somewhat mystified at what's going to happen. So we need to really spend a bunch of time over all these Q&As that we're doing, or just these little segments talking about how each part of this is there's nothing confrontational or something to be afraid of when you come in for golf lessons. But to help make that come to life, we've got to talk about what happens in a bay when you're brand new as a student. So I wanted to talk about, like, what's a coach really looking at? So you're going to make a swing on the bay, you at home, come into a GOLFTEC, you make a swing in there, what's really going to happen? Let's show you. So help me out with this one here, Brad. So the first thing you're going to do when you come in to see a coach is take a look around. So we've got a net you're going to hit into, or a screen here that we're using. Brad's standing over at the computer. He's going to take a look at what we're going to do and scroll through some video and talk about some of those motion measurement numbers that you see on the screen. We've got a launch monitor that sits right here at all times. It's always capturing where the shots go. In fact, the last shot that I hit is up there on this column that I'm pointing at right now. So all your ball flight data of where the shots go is right there. And then the motion system that I'm wearing just really tells me how I'm moving. So simple things like I'm turning myself away from the target, towards it, opened and closed. How much you bend forward and back will measure, and then how much you actually tilt your shoulders or your hips left and to the right. And all that can be as complicated as you want, or really just very simple. So your coach at first is just going to tell you what those numbers are and give you some idea of what's going to happen. And then you're going to hit some shots, and we're just going to watch the pattern of how you move and the pattern of where your shots go. Are they to the left? Are they to the right? Coach will also ask you some questions about your game, and all that's really helping you get the most out of the lesson. So if you really want to know what you can do to best help yourself, even before you hit a shot, it's come in thinking about your game and have some questions in mind that you'd like to ask. Every coach at GOLFTEC is just a professional coach. You're not going to do anything that they haven't seen before. So if you hit a shot and it bounces off the wall, they've seen that before. If you hit a shot, it doesn't even get off the ground, just rolls along the mat, that's fine too. You pop one up. We've got plenty of nets and safety and security everywhere here. There's no shot that you can possibly hit that we haven't seen before. Good? That sound about right?
Fair. I think the better job you can do of describing that, like, shot you absolutely hate to hit, that'll just help help a coach to really prioritize what things they need to talk about to help you fix that problem.
Yeah, that's a great point. So if there is something you can be prepared with, it would be the answer to a question of, where do you hit the golf ball? What frustrates you? Those are almost the exact same question, just phrased a little bit differently. You need to know that answer before you come in. That's how you can get the most out of this lesson. But don't worry about where you hit these. That's why you come into GOLFTEC, is to figure out how to stop hitting bad shots. I actually like it when students come in and hit the worst shots ever. It's just so much more reflective of what happens on the course, and then you can get right down to the nitty-gritty on how to fix that. So, for example, you might come in, and no matter how you hold the club, wherever you stand, however you address the ball, just do whatever's normal. And I'll give you an example of one that's the one we see the most often. Setting up to the ball with the face aim too far to the left of the target, slicing across the ball. Didn't hit that really well. Watching the launch monitor, though, the shot starts to the left and curves back to the right. That probably sounds like you. This is a typical piece of the puzzle, so it's good. So we'll watch you hit a few shots. We'll capture a few of your swings like that one did. The moment you hit a shot, you're going to be able to save a second and a half before and after you hit that shot so that we can take a look at it. So the next thing you'll do with your coach is describe those or recap the problems that you're facing and what it is that you don't want to have happen anymore. All this again is just like simple conversation. Then let's take a look at the swing and let's give them a little gist about how that would work.
Why don't you hit one more out there as well?
One more?
Yep, same thing.
So to Brad's point, really, you just keep hitting a few more shots. Keep watching for the same pattern of shots or look for different ones that you're having a hard time with. And here we go. So now you could easily just play a swing and watch what you look like, which is really cool. I think for most people, a lot of our students that come in have never seen themselves swing. They don't really understand why they do what they do, or might watch the top of my swing here, and if that looks strange to you, that wouldn't be uncommon. And then when you look at the middle of the screen there, you can see all the data points that we're measuring. Your coach is not going to come in and try to tell you every single thing you need to know about your swing. If you were, it would look something like this. And you just pull out all those numbers on the screen. Talk about how terrible all of those are. That's not the point at all. Those numbers really help drive the decision for the coach and help quantify whether or not you're doing a really nice job or not. Those are color-coded just based upon all the tour players that we've captured and how close you are moving at that point in time, like at the top of the swing here, relative to PGA Tour players. So for example, a lesson like this might go, well, your shoulder turn at the top of the swing is 67 degrees. The average PGA Tour player turns up close to 89 at that point, so you got 22 degrees more to go. And if you tell your coach, hey man, I really want to hit the ball farther, this would be a really good place to start. So your coach will just take you through some exercises on how to turn more degrees and start hitting some better shots and start to see the golf ball go farther using the launch monitor that we have here and see the data of your swing progress over time. And the coach is a pro. That's all he does. That's all he or she does is just answer the phone to talk to potential students and then teach golf lessons like this. So if you're afraid of looking at your swing, you're nervous about what a coach is going to say, none of this is intimidating. The conversations are always simple, and no one's going to make you feel silly. That's the whole point.
I think the numbers can be an objective way of measuring the swing, but then also conveying to a student like what they can actually do as well. Because the turn's a great example. A lot of people may come in and use this golfer that only turns 67 degrees. They may just feel they're physically only capable of that. Yeah. We know it's often can't think of a time where that actually was the case.
Right.
But then actually through some work with their coach, that's able to quantify those changes as you do progress as well. So the motion can be a diagnostic tool as well as the ability to then chart progress throughout a lesson.
Yeah, absolutely. We save all this data so it's always there, and you'll be able to review it at the end of the day. You and your coach will take some video of the conversations just like this and record those, and then you've got a place that you can actually view that later. So we're trying to do everything we can to help everyone in any community across the country or the world just get better at golf. And we do that by having all these people who are professional golf instructors right there to make this whole experience for you just easy and quick and effective and repeatable. Nothing more to it than that. Sound good?
Yeah, should be something you come in and enjoy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a golf. I think everyone watching this is probably doing this for fun. So trying to make this experience fun and golf in general more fun is what it's all about.
Golf lessons are fun. Playing golf and not hitting bad shots is even more fun.
True.
So we'll keep doing some more of these. Hang with us whenever you want. What I would suggest though is if there's a topic you want us to talk about, go ahead and just comment below what you'd like to see. We'll try to pick maybe the best 1 or 2 questions every single week and keep moving along with answering all the questions we can about golf and trying to make it just as easy to understand and talk about this in the simplest terms. Thanks.